Welcome to the weekly roundup. I'm Scott. That's Ben.
Hello.
It is the end of the month, Ben. June 30th, 2023.
Yes, sir.
You know what that means? Tomorrow's Canada Day.
It's exciting.
Any big plans?
Hang out with family. Get a day off.
Amazing. Sounds like an amazing time.
Can we see the Peace Tower?
Nah, it's a little
No.
washed out.
It's very patriotic.
Very
in this
patriotic.
office.
Yeah, that is
Yes.
nice.
Yeah.
It's good. Well, I'm going to be pulling the kids on the back of the tube for the entire day tomorrow, weather permitting. So that'll be my fun day tomorrow, cottage. So
Should be nice.
yeah, that being said, I think before we get started, we should mention some people may have seen the webinar that we have coming up on Wednesday, July 5th at noon. We partnered with Mackenzie Investments. We're putting on a webinar. Who's presenting? It's Jackie. Do you
Jackie
remember
Power.
Jackie
Yep.
Power
Yep.
on the role of the executor. So if you haven't seen that and you haven't seen the invite on how to get on it, please email us. We'll be happy to send that over. We
Yep.
did send an email out, I think Wednesday, and then we'll
Yeah.
probably we'll send another one out on Tuesday, reminding everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Now that's behind us. Ben, what happened this week? Has it been a busy week? In the market, in the world?
Yeah. I mean, it's the end of June, obviously, end of the second quarter as well. So as you get into quarter end, lots to look at, lots to go over. Continues to be a tug of war with rates and the markets and the economy, and we've been most economic data has been up and down, where we had China accelerate in the last 2 quarters of last year. Seems to be slowing again. They've been cutting rates. In Europe, we saw more data come through that their economy is probably in a recession already. So lots of mixed things going on. Chinese yuan has been getting super weak versus US dollar, which isn't a giant surprise, and the yen continues to be weak as well against US dollar. So lots still happening, but end of quarter resulted in a decent day today, but generally a sideways to down market for the quarter.
Yeah, things up a little bit today, but yeah.
Mm.
Okay, what else did you want to talk about today?
Yeah, I mean, want to certainly give an update. I had lots of questions just about how do we kind of reconcile where rates are, where the economy is, where markets are. I think one of the things that the economists around the world have been looking for is this kind of big jump in unemployment. And so I think it was 2 weeks ago now where I said we saw that first uptick, and that continues to be the case. And we're seeing inflation numbers around the world with a 3 handle on them again. So, when we think about kind of the evolution of where we are in this kind of rate cycle, if inflation's starting to get back towards that number that central banks would like, then you have to think that we've come close to peaking, if not already peaked in interest rates. So lots of questions from almost anyone I talk to that has a mortgage, variable rate mortgage, and asks about where they think that's going to go. I did put out a pretty good chart in one of the YouTube shorts this week, just on kind of rates and mortgages in the world, kind of the picture of kind of who has the most exposure to variable rate mortgages, with Australia being in the top right corner and the United States being in the bottom left corner. So US has the least amount of exposure to variable rate mortgages, because the majority of their mortgages now are based on the 30-year bond. So when they lock in at that rate, and they don't think about it for the next 30 years, unless they're moving, of course. Where Canada, Australia, Norway, Denmark, most of these countries really rely on that floating market, and so they're much more sensitive to rates rising. So, I think that this continues to be a material risk in Canada to pay attention to.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of charts, what do you got for us today?
I have some charts,
Mm,
of course.
all right. As
Let's
always, if anybody has any questions, just put them down in the Q&A chat button there, at the bottom. All right, well, how about it?
and we're off. So this is when we're looking at the market, it's always interesting to have a look at it. And this is the TSX. This is roughly the end of March is right here, to where we finish the quarter. So a reasonable picture to see how the TSX has trended over the last quarter, or as I mentioned, we've really chopped up and down, but sideways to down, at least for the quarter. So that would be, this is the TSX, so that would be, of course, energy and financials primarily. Some materials as well have been sideways. Small parts of the tech market did well through this quarter, so Shopify, Lightspeed, some of those names hung in. But that's just a visual, so you can think about how the TSX performed last quarter. So just as I follow many things around the world, sentiment, market, what's happening, these charts, and Hedgeye puts out some fantastic research, always interesting to see what's coming on. You know, we've talked about AI a little bit, and I think that's probably, if you look at this chart here, AI mentions in the news story and conference calls and quarterly updates from corporate America. This is a worthwhile look at just to see it's gone vertical in the past quarter. So I'd expect we probably see a bit of steam come out of that as things settle in here. And then when we look at this is the S&P call volume. So again, off the charts and call volume. So as you look at individuals and hedge funds trying to juice their returns in the end of quarter, best way to do that is to leverage up. So you see massive call buying into the end of the quarter, which again makes me think that there's some steam to come out of the S&P next week and the following weeks. So we look at what's kind of happened in the yield market as well. We've been buying bonds and GICs for clients. If people have fresh money that's not invested, National Bank launched a GIC this year that's 1 year paying 6.05% and callable by the bank every year for the next 6 years. So rates have really kicked up. And so this is when we're looking at the high yield market, where December 31st of 21, effectively, you know, there weren't any bonds in this range. And as we look at where we are today, now we're looking at end of March, we'll say the high yield market, just to give you a sense at how it's priced now, you get a huge percentage of these bonds starting to trade in the kind of 6 to 10+% range. So high yields moved up dramatically, of course, with a risk premium increasing. But this is another sign to say, okay, look, let's start paying attention to this area. Is there opportunities there? I don't think the answer is that we do that today, but just showing you how quickly things have changed in the past, we'll say 18 months. So continue to watch yields and bond prices from there. So at the outset, I mentioned that China has been cutting. And so if we look at China, this is the black line here would be M2. So if you recall what M2 is, it's effectively all the money supply in the system. And then the blue line here that we're starting to see, because they only introduced it a number of years ago, it's the China loan prime rate, excuse me. So they've effectively been cutting, trying to stimulate here. And so important to continue to watch, but it shows that they're on the other side of this, that where North America is still, you know, a little bit behind. China is on the other side trying their best to stimulate. So I think they need to work together. I listened to a fascinating podcast this week with Jack Farley, who's a very interesting host and certainly worth listening to. But he interviewed a guy named Robert McCauley, who was talking about really the importance of the US dollar in the system. Really gives you a great understanding for what happens to the US dollar and why it plays such a material role in the world. So this is a quick look at FX reserves. And so this would be what the central banks of the world currently hold. And if you look at this, it says allocated FX reserves to US dollar, 11.15 trillion, essentially comprising 93% of the outstanding reserve. So that's why the US dollar continues to play a major part in the world, and really a big driver for return. So we'd watch these numbers quite closely. Give you context what the Canadian dollar means in reserves. Effectively 2% of all foreign asset reserves are held in Canadian dollars. So small piece of the overall pie. I think I had two more quick ones, but continue to get questions about commercial real estate. Obviously, commercial real estate in the world is under pressure right now, as not everyone's coming back to the office. San Francisco right now, pretty material outlier with 30% vacancy in their commercial real estate space. This is a pretty good look at just the exposure to commercial real estate that's rolling over. This is giving you a visual of 2024, something in the neighborhood of 500 billion. 2025, another 500 plus billion. So you're looking at a couple of $1 trillion of commercial real estate coming due in the next few years. And with the rates where they are, that'll put tremendous pressure on these assets rolling over. So we'll continue to watch and we'll see what could happen to this as we move on. So I'd say the last two would just be on Bitcoin and crypto, as we followed some of it. BlackRock's been pushing ahead on getting their spot ETF launched. And so I'd like to see what continues to play out in the news and media. And so I thought this was a great picture just to show, people probably remember when the internet was first starting to come out, there's everybody in lots of news feeds just kind of saying that this will never work, this is a fad. And so you continue to see those predictions happen with Bitcoin. And as we read and look at who's investing in it, institutions continue to put money in Bitcoin and Ethereum, but primarily Bitcoin. So there continues to be a lot of attention associated with it. This was an article today where, as I've commented on the last little while, is the UK continues to push ahead on providing the support of Bitcoin and crypto community. So essentially what this says, UK crypto, they receive royal assent to passing a law to regulate crypto. And so, some people might say this is going to be a bad thing. Ultimately, this is the thing that needs to be done globally in order for it to continue to become mainstream. So some countries, some companies are starting to push ahead. If you saw on the Daily today, North Carolina said they're passing a law or a bill to see if they can hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So this continues to move ahead quite quickly, and we pay attention to it. And I think it's very important to watch how this evolves for the next couple of years.
Great job.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
So short week in the markets. Canadian market closed Monday, US market closed Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday, 4th of July. Yep.
Yep. So what are we looking at going into next week?
Yeah, volumes will definitely be light next week. So it tends to be anyways, but when you get kind of those back-to-back holidays, you're going to get super light volume. So we'll watch that. But I don't think anything else material at the present time. I certainly didn't comment on too much on Russia today, but that continues to play a major geopolitical risk in the world. So we'll watch and see how that unfolds. But from an economic perspective and market perspective, I don't think anything else material next week. Just a little bit lighter volume. We'll continue to watch how it plays out.
Gotcha. Okay. Anything else before we let everybody go enjoy their long weekend?
I think that what you talked about at the outset was just the executor piece that we're having next week. I definitely implore people to pay attention to that if they haven't gone through that process, because we've settled so many estates, and that executor process continues to get much more complicated every day. And so it's certainly worth paying attention to and dialing into. And if you can't make it, let us know. We'll send out the recording afterwards, but it's going to be a worthwhile hour to understand what the executive process is like.
Definitely. All right, on that note, we're wishing everybody a great long weekend and a happy Canada Day, and we'll see you next week.
Happy Canada Day. Take care.